voted on it. Well, it's already been paid. We've got to vote yes. I think one, yeah, I don't. One does all. Elvin Larson.
Here.
Rhonda Robertson. Present. Andrew Bushman. Absent. Dayton Flake. Karsten Flake.
I'm here.
Mr. Fields, Mr. Miller, Mr. Moser.
Okay. Go to the Pledge of Allegiance. All volunteers. Listen to the Pledge of Allegiance and salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, that brings us to the invocation. Do I have a volunteer for the invocation? Apparently it's me. Okay.
Our dear Heavenly Father, as we come before Thee, we're grateful for the moisture, grateful for the many blessings that we have in this community. Help us to make good decisions, to do what's best for this school and the community. These things we pray for in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Thank you, Karsten. Brings us to adoption of the agenda. I'll make a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Any discussion or anything about having to pull anything out?
Not that so.
Okay. Call for a vote. Myself, yes. Karsten?
Yes.
Rhonda?
Yes.
All right. Takes us.
I move that we accept the minutes for August 9th as presented.
I'll second it.
Any discussion needed or any notes? Okay. Call for the vote. Karsten?
Yes.
Rhonda?
Yes.
Myself, yes. That brings us to you, Mr. Fields.
Yes, you should have a written report from me, and there are just a couple things I want to add to that and elaborate on during my time. But I also wanted to mention that Mr. Mills couldn't be here tonight, so I'll cover any questions that you might have in regards to our budget and accounting. And having started with that, I want to introduce one of Mr. Miller's teachers, unless he wants to, he might want to do it.
I'll do it. Yeah,
Please.
Happy to.
I'll turn it over.
We have our new ag teacher here, Christina Rodriguez. She's we kind of lucked into this somehow. Her family just moved down from Oregon, and she was big into FFA in high school, and then was in the ag program at Oregon State. And so she's really been on fire and has a lot going on with our ag program and FFA. And without getting too much into it and taking away some of her stuff, we'll turn some time over to her.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to bring any of our students in today. They all have a zillion and 5 other obligations on Tuesdays. So hopefully soon we'll get them here before you and have them put something together for you guys. It's been really, really exciting. Do we have any FFA alumni in the room?
Have what?
FFA alumni? Are there any FFA alumni among us tonight?
Well, we have people that maybe they weren't part of FFA, but they've been involved in ag. Yeah.
Yeah, hey, that's cool too. 4-H is a fantastic program as well. I was actually dual enrolled and I was Dairy Princess at one point in time too.
Wow.
So that's awesome. So I just want to explain a little bit about what the program is, and then I'll go into specifically what we're doing here in Joseph City. So FFA is a student-led organization that focuses on career development, agricultural education, philanthropy projects, and public speaking opportunities. It's really great. It's a part of a 3-piece model within an agricultural classroom, the classroom being part A. Then there's what's called a supervised agricultural experience. It's the experience that the kids run, they keep paperwork on. and they're able to treat it on their resumes like an internship. It can be philanthropic, where it's community service oriented. It can be entrepreneurial. It can be creative, or it can be focused specifically on livestock. Those are the 4 areas that they can be in. And then there's the FFA extracurricular program, but it is a big piece of what we do, and it kind of ties everything together as far as the kids being able to practice amongst their peers and really apply their knowledge in more of a real world sense, getting them to competitions and things where they're able to show off their skills and really hone them to a next level kind of way that inside a classroom you just don't have enough time to really bring all of those pieces together for students. We're really excited. We have livestock in the Joseph City Land Lab for the first time ever. We have 19 baby turkeys that are living out in our greenhouse right now, and they've been weathering all of the crazy weather and fire alarms and everything really well. I'm really proud of how well they're doing. And I think they've about doubled in size. I got to bring my scale in tomorrow so we can actually weigh them. I think they've doubled already since Thursday, so that's kind of crazy. And then we've got a greenhouse full of projects. We've got peas and sunflowers and all kinds of things that the kids are just really interested in doing. Moving forward with the greenhouse, we haven't fully decided. We're still in discussion amongst our student leadership as far as whether or not we're going to try to move to selling our excess produce that the students can't all eat at a local farmer's market, or if we're going to find a community food bus program and do donations. We haven't fully decided which way they want to roll with that yet. And we went to the Colt Leadership Conference at the end of August. We took most of our officer team. We had one that plays football. He was able to come with us on the weekend. The kids had a great time. They learned a bunch. They've been totally on fire and running with me headlong and working really hard on building their foundational community. We just had our second FFA meeting yesterday, and we decided that we're going to use the funds from our Kiss the Pig fundraiser for our t-shirts, and then mostly to save it aside for future travel opportunities. And we also went to Snowflake. We went and visited their established chapter. Their teacher's been there for 3 years. The chapter's existed for longer. It was really great to see a land lab with barns and livestock. They had lots of pigs and sheep that are going to be going to fair this next week, and it was really great to get to glean knowledge and stuff from them. Going down the line, we've got things that all kinds of community activities kids want to do, which I think is fabulous. It's a good way to get them involved in figuring out where we can help best and serve. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. There may be a few questions. We'll turn it over to them, but thank you very much.
So have you done anything to reach out to the state FFA to get involved with all the competitions and stuff to open those avenues for our kids as well?
Yes, ma'am. We are projected and just starting to put our teams together and figure out practice schedules and things for our career development event competition in January, and then leadership development events in April. And then we're also talking to the Winslow and Snowflake chapters, because we're so close together, about maybe holding sort of a chapter pre-contest kind of thing where we can have some additional practice there, as well as just having the kids build community and learn from each other. A bunch of our FFA officers, they're brand new to officer positions in general and learning parliamentary procedure and all of these things. So it's really great to get them, you know, adjacent to communities where that's normal for students, and they're able to sort of lead by example. Because it's one thing when I say it, and it's another thing when kids their age are like, nope, this is just how it is, and it works really great, and here's how, you know, here's how we put together our meeting minutes and our program of activities and all of those things. So that's great. So far for career development events, we've got a livestock judging team, 2 floriculture teams. So if anybody knows anybody that has flowers or a flower shop, that was not something I did, and we're looking for coaches because the girls are like super jazzed to do that. I'm like, okay, we're all going to learn together, and that's great too.
We do have someone here in town. Talk to me and we'll set it up.
Fabulous. That's why we would love to have them at least come and do a presentation and tell us what they know or what they think we should know. I think what else off the top of my head. Oh, ag management team of 4. So these teams are teams of 4, so we can only put together so many out of 19 students. 19 students. And then, leadership events for sure. The officer team has decided that they want to do an ag issues panel, and that will be something for sure we would love to come present to the board here closer to then, probably January or February. Be ready to present, start really practicing that hard in front of audiences. So, yeah. Anything else?
Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Seems like she's doing a good job, and congratulate Mr. Miller on recruiting an ag teacher, so it's good. Keep the program. Thank you very much.
Eric, what happened to the fish?
We still have fish out there.
Mhm.
We used to have it on both sides, and we've changed it to where the fish are just used on one side of the greenhouse, and then the other side is just in soil. They use soil instead of the rocks and the
So did we reduce the amount of fish we have, or,
not intentionally, but yes.
Well, was that-
Fish are reduced, yeah.
pardon?
Some of them have died over the years, and then we actually just, was at the end of the last school year, we bought more. But yeah, we still have fish out there.
If I may, we have all three kinds of medium sources that you would find in any sort of commercial greenhouse. We have a bed that is prepared for aquaponics that's directly on top of the fish. There's no soil medium at all. There's no aggregate or anything. And then we do have the aggregate hydroponic beds that have the lava rocks and things. And then we also have soil. So that's fun to show the kids that there is a difference and how that'll impact them in future careers. So I've been really liking the way that it's running right now. I would like to see us get some more fish back, but right now we're just holding everything together in that regard. And the kids did catch this week. I think they're up to 5. There was a bin that was taken offline that there was actually 5 babies in that they've captured and moved over. So that was kind of an unexpected surprise.
Thank you once again. So, continuing on with my report, so if you have questions on specific items, please let me know. One thing I neglected to add on there is that we're looking at some adjacent ways projects, specifically at the high school, and additional parking over by the softball fields. Mr. Miller and Mr. Hutchins have been working on that, and they've met with me, and we have a map and some ideas. We're going to follow up with some quotes and submit a application to use what they call adjacent way funds. And also a culvert. We're partnering with the county and the Joe City Utilities to put a culvert up where our bus was hitting a ditch and couldn't turn around on one of its routes up there on 7th and 8th, Baird Avenue up there. But other than that, there are some things going on. One thing I definitely should mention is that our high school had to do an early release today at lunch. And I messaged you all, but it had to do with the fire alarm. One of the buildings must have been struck by lightning, and it damaged the fire panel. And we were directed that since we couldn't get that operable and that we didn't have enough time to get any alternative fire watch up, that we needed to close down. So that's what we did. We'll be ready to open up again tomorrow, though Mr. Miller's been working hard on that. So appreciate that, and our vendor that does our fire panel's been helping. Did some damage, so we're going to try and see what we can put in as a safeguard to prevent that from happening anymore. So
real quick, as far as adjacent ways, I noticed, I haven't noticed if it was fixed, but we had water run along like the softball, that east fence, and we had several poles that looked like they'd been pretty much washed out.
Yeah.
They were sitting there in the air with concrete. Can we use adjacent ways to fix those, or did we already fix it by just shoving dirt around there?
Yeah. The county had shoveled, they used like a loader and put a bunch of soil back there right after it washed out. It's probably washed out again though. We could, so yes, we could use adjacent ways. However, I think the county will actually pay for some of that, if not all of that. Like any of the culverts along that road, maybe the gutter, in there. So I want to talk to them about that. But if not, or if it takes too long, we could use adjacent ways for that. And that would be important for that corner lot where the ag group is looking at doing some things, because that was washed out as well. And maybe a sidewalk along there. And maybe we should talk about that at an upcoming meeting and pull a map out and look at that. But yeah, good question. Thank you. There's some goals
With
in my plan. Go ahead.
just along those thoughts, when we're looking at putting in cement sidewalks,
Yeah.
we might also want to look at putting, tamping dirt and maybe putting in gravel.
Okay.
Just because of washing out under the cement and stuff.
Okay. That's good.
I have a,
It's less expensive too.
when the announcement came out today, it was said that there would be no practices or anything like that. I understand football had practice. Did anybody else have practice?
The football and play has practice tonight. The reason they were allowed to is I was able to get that, we had to go through a permit process and line out a fire watch. Someone's got to walk around and check the building. We're able to line that out. And so I approved them to have practice.
Okay, because I know, at least in my home, it was, are you sure? And then I guess later an email from one of the football coaches came to, but I just wondered if it affects some people, if they had already gone home to Winslow or whatever. And
Yeah, so if that happened and they couldn't make it, it won't be held against them.
okay.
There are some important things in my report. If you guys get a chance, I would like you to go through those and read it.
Can you print one of those off for me?
If you'd like me to elaborate or talk more about these, some of these items, I can do that now, or if you have any questions.
You can do it later.
Okay, all right. But yeah, so there's some financial reports and some goals that I've attached to my report.
You guys have any questions, or are you still reading down through there? So I'm assuming we're hoping on that AEL that they do the same thing they did last year and make it up.
Yeah, it's going to become a more heated topic as it comes up, and what they allow you to count in that aggregate limit. So like Steve was telling me today that he doesn't think the APS funds that our district has received would count in that. And so we could spend that, but we couldn't spend other funds, So it's going to be, for us, and the amount we're talking about, it's going to be some creative accounting. So we would get the funds, we just can't spend it. We have already received the funds, but there's a limit on what you can spend, so we couldn't spend the funds that we received, is how that is.
A whole lot of sense, does it?
No. That's why there's a fight on that down at the state right now. Political posturing or maneuvers about this issue.
Okay. And that doesn't come around till March?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it happens by March, we have to revise our budget and make those cuts by April 1st. Like, if they don't take action, excuse me.
Does anybody else have any questions? Okay. You ready to move on then?
This paper's just more or less for us to
We don't have to.
evaluation of superintendent. Haven't we in the past foregone that?
Mhm.
Okay.
There's other instruments too, but by policy or law, you're to receive that from the district by like November 11th, or November 15th. So I put it in this month's agenda, but I might throw it in November just so you guys have a copy. You can print it out or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Have it in advance. You're supposed to have it in advance for the evaluation that's due in December. But you could use anything.
Okay, anything else? Do we have anybody signed up for call to the public? Okay, we don't have to read that. That brings us to 4. Consent agenda item that goes down 4A through 4H. I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items as listed.
I'll second.
Any discussion needed on that?
That was 4A through H.
That's correct.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
The 4E exchange students, is that something that we're gonna need to vote on every year? Is that something we could approve? We'll take so many per year and leave it up to the discretion of the principal to do?
Yeah, here's the situation with that. We could change policy so you guys don't have to approve it. In policy right now, the governing board should sign off on it. But I believe that was the case when the schools didn't receive funding for foreign exchange students. Now we do, so it is a little different.
So we would have them in here and we didn't get paid, and that's why we needed to vote for it? Is that what?
Probably because it would tax the resources of the district a little bit, and so the board wanted
Wanted to say yay or nay?
Yeah.
Okay.
But now we do receive some funding, and that's what it is. So however you guys want to proceed, I don't see anything wrong with presenting them to you guys so that you know we have some.
What funding, is it comparative to the rest of the funding?
I think so, yeah.
The same
Eric knows.
per student?
That's how I understood it.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong on that, but that's how I understood it.
Okay.
I don't know that we want to totally give that option away, that the board gets to vote on that,
Well, I'm not
And
saying,
I'm just, we're discussing,
Yeah.
so I'm thinking that it's, instead of us saying, y'all just do what you want to, I think it's something that the board needs to look at periodically, don't you?
I agree. I was just wondering if that was an option, do we want to go that direction? I'm
Right.
not necessarily in favor of that because I do like knowing
Right.
who they are. It'd be cool to have them come to our board meeting and introduce themselves, but I don't know that that's fair to them or
Right.
anything else too. But
But I think it's something that the board needs to be on top of, just 'cause.
If I could bring your attention to some of the donor choose grants that the teachers have gotten, that's really impressive. I want to thank the principals and those teachers for filling out those forms and applications to get those funds. That's great. So I think about every teacher that applied in our district has got something. One was an APS grant, but the rest were donor choose projects. So there's a process they go through. And then also the SFB awarded another grant for us, HVAC equipment at the elementary. So that's a nice thing I wanted to.
So where are we standing as far as, let's take it to the top.
Yeah.
Do we have what we were wanting now? Are we okay on our instruments that the school owns, or is that still an issue?
It's probably still I don't know, I shouldn't speak. We got some things we wanted to reevaluate after we got it, so.
We still don't have everything that we would need. It would be useful to have more, but we're a lot better off than we were before. So we've gotten to the point where we didn't have any instruments that we could rent out or check out. So with the flute, piccolo, snare drums, and a couple saxophones that we have, we have a good start.
So, just asking, I realize when people rent, there's going to be damage, but is there some sort of because we're renting it to them a lot cheaper than they can get it elsewhere. That's why we do it.
Free, yeah.
Yeah. So what if they tear it up or they lose it?
So if there's damage that's caused by, you know, them not taking care of it or just simply breaking it, then they do have to pay the costs on that.
And that has happened?
It's been a long time since we've had instruments to pass
So
it out.
even worry about?
Yeah, so I don't even know if we've done it since I've been principal. If we have, they've been instruments that were about done anyways. The principal, or excuse me, the music teacher keeps me up to date, Mr. Hutchins,
Mm-hmm.
and keeps me up to date on the instruments, so I
Okay.
think we'll be on top of that.
Now, is there anything in the planning to do anything with the music kids to try and get some extra money to do that?
Like have them fundraise to get instruments? We have not discussed that, no.
I think it'd be appropriate.
Is it something that, and I don't even know if this is an option, is it something we could post somewhere, do something and have, and when you do ask for instruments, you're probably gonna get a whole lot that aren't worth anything compared to the ones that are,
I did put,
but
I did
is
put a
that-
post on Facebook, to the town, and we've gotten some since then.
I'm thinking along the lines, the kids play at the football games, right? Why not announce it a few times and figure out some way people can, for $10, get them to play something, or, you know, give people the opportunity to donate, but feel like they're getting something for their money. And the kids are earning it. That's the whole thing.
For sure.
Instead of the kids always getting it handed straight to them. They need to earn it.
For sure. Yeah, we can definitely.
And that takes the load off the parents, the teachers, other than, you know, leading them at the ball game, but stuff like that. Let's get them doing something. Make them come up with some ideas. You know, tell them, y'all need to figure out a way to earn some money.
Yeah, we'll talk to them about it.
Sounds good, thank you. So then we're,
Anything else on the consent agenda? Okay, call for the vote. Dayton?
Yes.
Rhonda?
yes,
Myself, yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Karsten. Okay, that brings us to 5A. I'll make the motion that we approve a JV drama coach position.
I'll second it.
Would you like me to present this at all, or you wanna?
Do you guys have any questions?
Wait a minute. Oh, I see what it is. Duh. I'm on the wrong page.
So we're just recommending this to help with supervision of kids out there. There's a lot of students that participate in the drama program, the music program. Like currently, let's see, I put in here, I think it's 48, over 40 students. Yeah, over 40 students. And so it just, a lot of times volunteers have helped us in the past, but this is a way for us to try and formalize this and also give some more accountability to what's been a volunteer position in the past. So,
And this would be who?
Anthony Wetton.
Who is our employee at this time. So it's a way of giving one of our teachers a little more pay instead of them just volunteering.
He also teaches our drama classes for the junior high and high school.
So who are we paying the varsity one to?
Jason Wetton, that's Anthony's brother. He's the one.
One from Winslow, right?
He's from Winslow. He directed the children's musical.
He was, and helped with the other ones last year, yeah.
Okay.
I think he's done some work with MPC stuff too, so yeah.
So a lot of times this will put 3 people or 4 people at play practice because there's a varsity coach and then 2, 1. It lists it here, but what's their specific assignment?
So are you talking about Poppy Dunton?
Uh-huh.
So she's not at play practice usually. So she does the stage production class, which is kind of behind the scenes sets and things like that, and they use that class period to help prepare. So that her responsibility is helping out with the play, but she doesn't go to play practice typically.
And then there's one more, correct, that does,
I don't remember who the last one is. Tyler Rice is on there. He's just over the auditorium. He typically, I don't think he goes to play practice very often. So he's mostly just dealing as they get closer to the play, he works with, getting everything set up for the auditorium.
The dress rehearsals and the
Yeah.
performances he would be at.
And he's busy, so he can't help watch the kids.
Yeah, and he's hourly. That's more the stage maintenance.
Well, and he's not like a certified teacher or a substitute, so he really
Right,
shouldn't be
right.
bossing the kids around.
neither is the varsity one though. He's not a teacher.
He is
He ha-
a teacher.
He
He is?
is a,
Teaches at NAU, has a
Oh,
fingerprint
okay.
clearance card, and
Okay.
and I think like insurance and law-wise, he's covered. Whereas you or I, unless we go through the whole process of being the volunteer and all that, then we're covered somewhat, but we still have to be very careful.
I think as soon as you're a volunteer, like you're covered because you're approved through the board to be a volunteer. I would assume, is that,
and have a fingerprint. So that the rule is they have to be approved and.
I've
Yeah.
gone through the fingerprint thing. We have people that don't teach that coach our sports, so.
All coaches have to take courses online before they can, for their first year. So they do receive some training on how to work with kids.
Things to look for.
Whereas a volunteer doesn't.
Volunteers have to at the
Do
high
they?
school level, yeah.
I struggle with it.
What?
I struggle with it. I think it's a lot.
What, to pain? Now, you're the one always wanting to give them more money.
I completely agree. I don't know that it's a position that we need, is what I'm saying. I'll hand out money to our teacher and our staff all the time,
And he is.
but I don't think I'm not convinced this is a need. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's a bad whatever.
Yeah, you're saying it, you feel like it's an unneeded position, so that's bad.
I'm not saying it's unneeded. I'm saying I'm not completely convinced that it is needed. That's what I'm saying.
We could talk about it more if you want me to.
Well, I've talked about it and talked about it and talked about it. So that's what
Why do you think why are you not convinced we need it? Why do you think we don't need it? Because that's the only way to phrase it.
we've been dealing with it not this way for
Okay,
how
if
many
we
years was this way?
continue with everything else on this list that way, we aren't gonna pass nothing. Let me just say that, because I've gone over this list with Mr. Fields today. So there's other things on here that could have that attitude too.
I understand that.
Part of the rationale, for doing that is it's always good to have two staff members present, especially when you have a large group. And what we've kind of kept up with our sports teams is making sure we always have two coaches there, two paid coaches. And the 40 students involved in this are way more than any other sport that we offer, so there's just a huge number of students that are participating in, and to make it more effective, even if you look at it from a coaching standpoint, having one coach with 40 kids is really hard to get them trained to what they need to do, let alone, the supervision side of it. So it just kind of help them have a second set of eyes and somebody else they've both worked in theater for a long time that have some experience that can help the kids better.
Is the hours basically the same as, for example, the JV basketball coach?
Comparable, yeah.
Yeah, it's comparable. It might be a tad less. The season's a little bit longer, but they don't practice every day of the week like a basketball coach would. So it's probably a little less, but not by a lot.
It's hard to say because, on a case-by-case basis, some coaches put a little bit more time in.
Yeah.
Our new ag teacher, I know she's putting a lot of time in after school because she told me But like maybe cross-country might not, it's only so much
And,
running you
and something that I want to point out, I mean, for me, the plays and those type of things are just as important as the sports.
They are. I completely agree with that.
I feel like that we've got a momentum going and making available to a lot of these kids that have nothing open to them. And since we've started doing this, it's brought a lot of kids out and community members to watch and,
And it brings
I
joy to the school. It brings money to the school.
I've
Yeah.
had a lot of out-of-district students tell me that one of the main reasons they chose to come here was the drama and music department. It's a big thing.
So if you held it, football, play, it'd be kind of hard to. Does that help it justify it any to you? I'm trying to con you here.
Well, we don't have to, I mean, let's just call for the vote and see how it goes. First one up is Rhonda. What do you
Yes.
think? Myself, yes. Carson.
Yes.
All right. Dayton.
Yes.
Thank you. That brings us to the next one that we can have a discussion about. I'll make a motion that we increase pay rates for the athletic tournament hospitality coordinator.
I'll second.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions on it? First of all, you can see the chart that Mr. Mills or Julie set up here. It shows the current compared to the proposed amount but Mr. Miller wants to recruit one person, if possible, to take that over. Total's about 1,500 if I counted right.
To do the all of them?
I thought I had 1,200 for all of them.
No, that's 15.
Okay, 1,500 then.
You have 500 for wrestling, 300 for basketball.
There's
You have
no
a
basketball.
basketball. I was gonna say, we have a basketball
Yeah, there's
tournament?
no basketball tournament. That's probably where the extra
So
300.
then you have 300 for softball, which is the softball baseball,
Baseball, yeah.
right? Okay. 300 for volleyball and 100 for track invitational.
Yeah, so 1,200.
And this is because we feel like the hours have increased since we last did this?
No,
the
just we
pay.
felt like we are way underpaying the hours. They'll easily spend 5 to 10 hours depending on the event per day, and most of those are multiple day tournaments. So I was just trying to get the hourly rate up to where it's reasonable.
Where do these sit in comparison to similar schools that are doing the same thing?
With that, I couldn't tell you. I'm not
That would
sure.
be tough. And maybe the better question would be in per hour rate. So he did analysis on per hour calculation, and currently the person may be making under $10 an hour. So this would just maybe get them up to above minimum wage, depending on how many hours they put in. And it also affects like the teams that will sign up for our tournaments. He
As
said.
well as the officials.
Yeah, that's a big draw, I guess, for the teams currently.
And we've been having trouble finding someone to do it, and one of the big reasons is the pay. So
And if you think if we do this, we could get one person to do all of them and be more consistent?
we do, and we already have somebody who really wants to do it. But so yeah,
Is that on this board meeting too?
it's not.
They want to know this first?
That would be important, yes.
And we'll advertise, I think. I mean, I don't know who it is.
Yeah, it would be posted and advertised. So I mean, I'm just saying that there are people.
But there's interest.
Yeah.
You're not saying you've already hired someone.
We have not already hired anyone.
Okay, any other questions? All right, call for the vote. Myself, yes. Carson,
Yes.
Dayton, Rhonda,
No.
okay. That takes us to personnel requests. I'll make a motion that we approve the personnel assignments as listed.
I'll second.
Oh, I guess I better quit reading and write.
Do you have any questions, comments on this one?
The JV coach 2 for high school track, what's the difference in JV coach 2 as opposed to JV coach?
I don't know the difference in pay.
Is it a pay?
Well, I
Because
think,
it's less
I think
time?
JV coach is a level 2, so there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, and I don't think there's a distinction between JV coaches. I think JV coach just falls under level 2.
Okay. Because I saw that in there and that was,
An assistant is less, so a JV coach is more. So if it's a JV, it's like that, 2,300. Just a solid, assistant coach, which was put in place for, having 2 coaches out there. Even if we had low numbers, it's on our website. I could take a guess, but it's less than a JV coach.
So, sorry, but we just approved a new position of a JV drama coach.
Mhm.
But then if you look on the list that we're looking at right here, you're
An
hiring
assistant?
an assistant. So what is he? An assistant or a JV?
Let me find it.
There's a
Give me
difference in
1 second.
pay.
Yeah, that is a very good catch there.
It could be a typo.
That may be a pretty important typo.
Should have been JV drama is
It's-
what we had talked about.
Okay.
Right here instead of assistant.
On the chart, it's
On the
wrong.
chart, it says assistant.
Yeah, so we'll have to amend the motion to fix that, if you would, if you'd like to.
Do we have to amend the motion? Okay, I'll
Yeah.
amend the motion. I'll make a motion that we approve the personnel assignments as listed, except for it's a JV drama coach instead of assistant drama coach.
Okay.
You want to second that again? There we go. Dayton is.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this in a public meeting, but
Don't.
Yeah. You don't want to say that one.
it is good to have Kay Rush back. I think is that coach. That's good that she's able to come back to that. I hope I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
you can.
Thank you for that, yeah.
That's okay. Anything else?
Does this, I don't know if you know this, does this take us through the end of the year as far as paid positions? Are we
Are we ever through the,
manned?
we
Woman,
do have
personnel.
some substitutes for sure that will,
And you'll have volunteers.
No, I'm coaching wise is what I was.
oh, there's some still junior high basketball that we need a coach. And is that the only one? Yeah, that at least JV girls or junior high girls basketball.
But we are ready for winter sports and the next sport for junior high.
We are ready for high school sports in the winter, and we are also ready for the next junior high sport. Yep.
Okay.
I need you to remotion.
Why, you got somebody on there?
Yeah, me.
I remotion that we accept the proposal that was presented with the exception of the JV
Drama coach.
drama coach. You want to second it?
Dayton, you want?
There
Okay.
we go.
I'll call for the vote, or are we ready?
Yeah, go.
Myself, yes. Dayton?
Yes.
Yes. And
Eldon?
Eldon
I'll
abstained.
Can't vote myself in.
Did you,
Well, is there rules against that?
Yeah, there is.
Is
did
there?
you change?
Even though it's volunteer.
You changed your motion to, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, remotion by Karsten,
Okay.
seconded by Dayton.
Nice.
It included the amendment to say JV drama coach. I'm not as dumb as I look.
I'll move on to the next one. I'll make a motion that we approve the 2022-23 performance pay plan for teachers, specialists, and counselors.
I'll second it.
Any comments you want to make, Brian, or
No,
questions we need?
the
I'd like that.
teacher one, the top one that's attached is, very similar to last year. plans do have our site goals that the principals have worked with staff to include. The guidance counselor one, some small modifications to better meet our needs this year and address some ECAP things we wanted to get done. And then the specialist is for this campus down here and helping out with special ed and speech and things of that nature. Then the funds there, you'll want to take a look at that. So the allocation of funds, if you would look at that, and if you have any questions, let me know. Some of the funds are going to different things, and you know, we could rearrange that if needed in the future, but that's how it's set up at this point.
Are these performance pays basically the only difference is this year's goals as opposed to last year's goals?
For the teachers, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
We haven't added any more hours or changed what they have to do. It's just, okay.
Any other questions? Okay, call for the vote. Dayton? Rhonda?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Carson?
Yes.
All right.
Audit.
I'll make a motion that we accept the Joseph City Unified School District audit that was issued on August 26, 2022 for the fiscal year of 2020-21.
I'll second it.
Did we have any issues?
A few, they always try and find some things that help us improve, but roughly 10, and at least a couple were things beyond our control, like we're waiting on the county to get some things cleared up, evidently. But you do have copies of these things. So there's like a summary, and then there's the entire audit. And also there's an audit of our federal grant programs. And that one looked pretty good. They call that a single audit. But the biggest one is what it is. There's about 10 findings. But like I said, at least a couple of those were out of our control. But yeah, Steve says we did very well. Comparatively to other places, he was very happy with this audit. So it's FY21, so it's back a couple years, but he's very happy with it. But there were 10 items. One that's been of interest to the board before. I'm not going to hide anything here, so it's number 6 on if you're looking at it on there. But it's some interest that we accrue from late fees. It's lower than it has been in the past 2 years, but there is still about $1,800.
Interest that we're paying?
Yeah. Now we accrued more interest.
And what, didn't we also discuss before that part of that is just physically not really possible to fix it?
Yeah, some of it was, yeah. So I think we're pretty close to, we'd have a goal of none, but not quite there, so.
But it's gone down.
Yes, definitely. So I wanted to point that out. Thank you guys for that, but we can go through it as much as you want, or you might want a chance to read it more.
Any other questions? Okay, we're at Rhonda.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Carson?
Yes.
Dayton? Yes. Takes us to discussion item 6A. I will make a motion that we open up for discussion review of the possible policy changes to be considered.
I'll
for
second
adoption.
it.
So this has to be you have to have like a first reading and a second reading. So this is just the first reading, nothing to be approved. You're just looking at them, reading them, discussing them. You guys have chance.
Do we have how many readings of this? Just two?
This one and then
What are
next one.
what are differences that we need to know?
Changes in these policies. There's quite a few. Mr. Larson asked me to prepare to summarize these, and I can try and do it quickly, but there were a lot of new laws passed in our state last year, so policy had to change. to accommodate those. So I'll take you through.
So can I add something real quick?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So these usually come from like the ASBA, right? And generally we approve them all. There have been a few, you don't have to. There have been a few times where we're like, no, that policy change does not fit our community and we haven't adopted it. Okay, now if it's a legal thing where they're changing it because of legal, generally you have to adopt those. But if you guys feel like there's something in here that does not fit our community, you do not have to approve it. You can approve some others and not those. See what I'm saying? I just don't want you to feel like you're backed into a corner and it's like, oh, we got to approve them.
So stop me if you have any questions. Thank you, Ms. Larson.
Yep.
Okay, the first policy here, so I'm starting with 717 and going from there. Basically states that if we're going to give out any surveys to students, we need parental consent. Specifically, if we ask for certain information, personal information, parents have to be notified in advance, and this policy outlines that. So trying to maybe stop unnecessary surveys or something of that nature. The next policy is about visitations at a campus, and it says basically that anything that threatens the health and safety of pupils and staff are not required. Any visits, that is. So.
Can you give us an example of what one might be?
That would be tough, but the purpose is we can't require visitors to wear a mask.
Oh, okay.
So
That's related to COVID.
Okay.
So you could say, can't wear a mask, though we don't want you to be here type thing.
From,
If COVID was like.
from what I just.
Right. But I knew there had to be something to make this be an issue.
Yeah,
And that's what I,
that's where it's coming from.
okay.
From what I just learned at that conference, the state of Arizona, no one can require in government things. The reservation, they're not sure about, but in government places, you can't require masks anymore.
Yeah.
For any reason.
Yep, some of these policies are saying that.
That's what a lot of this stuff is.
Yeah.
Related to COVID.
And thank you for attending that for the board, Mr. Slate. Okay, so the next one, 719, requires schools to create certain procedures for parents to access records that relate to their child. So these could be like a student's cumulative file, things of that nature. Also, it empowers what they call a parent's bill of rights and gives them some leverage to look to sue or get compensation if their rights as parents are violated. So that's what
This is related to if they teach something in the class that they haven't, so like you have, parents should be able to see all your curriculum and all that kind of stuff
Mm-hmm.
surveys.
and stuff like that. And if something happens that isn't out there and the parents go, wait a minute, my kid should not be being taught that. That's what that's.
And parents, as part of that, so that's 100% right, but parents as part of that need to have access to all the library materials purchased and curriculum materials. And we can either put that on the website or have a form or process in place. And this all starts January 1st, by the way. So thank you for that. 720, moving along here.
Yeah, well, obviously we
You
need
can't teach anything sexually
You watch-
explicit.
it, yeah,
So, except for sexual education classes,
in a minute.
which we have a policy in place. But other than that, nothing that can be taught that has, explicit sexual information in it.
Or I believe in your library.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And it gives it age limits too, I believe.
Okay, 721, you can't require immunization, at least of COVID, for school attendance or registration. We still have the other immunizations in place, but to require those, you got to follow the process and everything. Yeah.
But like normal, Arizona is still an exempt state with parental whatever
Religious,
to any vaccine.
yeah. But we do have that waiver for the regular vaccines, but there's some things in place, like if we ever have an outbreak anywhere in the vicinity, all those people they can't be here. Okay, 722, can't require minor to wear a mask without parental consent. 723, school cannot require a resident of the state to have a vaccination to come to school, and you can't require a mask or face covering. 724, school districts file their application with the this one is an accounting thing, and so the State Board of Education now gets this, they call it an evaluation, along with our county schools, our county superintendent, Department of Schools. So that one's a little different. That's 724, but it's an accounting. 725, basic instructional program. You have to teach on 9/11. You have to dedicate age-appropriate time to the 9/11 lessons, and they have resources available for that. 726 has to do with licensure of psychologists if they are a third-party vendor, like we hire them through a consortium. If they're school certified, that's good enough. They don't need to be hold other certifications in the state for psychologists, just the school certification. Hazing is now, if somebody dies during a hazing, it becomes a felony. 728, it's just a misdemeanor if they don't die. But of course, if there's hazing that's permitted by employees, that would be something they would be terminated for. Graduation requirement on the 728, it raises that civics passing requirement from 60 to 70. You have to get a 70, and that starts with this year's freshmen. 729, you have to, it has to do with the declaring a sex in the sports. So for all of our sports, we have to designate the biological sex of the team or of the sport.
So it's like boys baseball and girls softball?
Yeah. Or if it's something like cheer or wrestling that has them both, it can be, you can say that. You could say co-ed or mixed.
Okay.
730, transportation services allows you, it's like a waiver if you have electric school buses, they count now. And also, you can use the non-yellow buses for some routes if it meets the law in that one. 731, bus driver requirements have changed, where if it's not an official bus, they don't need the CDL to drive it, purchase for those moves. But they still need a fingerprint clearance card and DPS certificate.
I don't like that.
Well, it's like the short bus.
Oh,
We've already been doing it. So like, my
I
daughter doesn't have a CDL, but she drives a short bus for softball, junior high softball. So it's under a certain passenger
okay,
The same as
limit.
a van.
that's okay.
It's like if you're driving a van. You
The
don't
way
have to have
the
a
way I
CDL.
was interpreting it is a gray bus versus a yellow bus.
No,
Oh,
the amount
Okay.
of passengers.
Okay.
Or am I wrong on that?
No, I think that's right on.
Because I was reading through it, and that's the way I read it.
732, student admissions. So, a certificate of educational convenience has to be accepted by a district if they want to enroll at our school. They get this from, I believe, the county, but it's like if there's a extenuating circumstance where they can't attend a school in where they live in their home district, they get one of these certificates, and we would have to take them. So that's what that is.
So they could bypass a waiting list that way. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but I think it would be very uncommon. So they would have to prove some things here, like it has to be distance, lack of adequate transportation facilities, or parents' employment. So that's all the summary says, but I'd be interested to dive into that a little deeper before we dealt with it. I doubt we'll deal with it anytime soon, but
A little more common in bigger urban
Yeah.
areas, I would imagine.
Well, for instance, Kellen and Raleigh were going to a school several miles away from where they lived.
Because of the boundaries.
Well, just because that's what they chose to do. And then they decided to go to Gilbert, which was, they could have walked from their house. So my point with that is, they weren't going any farther to the school they were going to in the first place than what the kids from Al McClaws Road or Perkins Valley come here. So distance would be a deal down there.
Thank you for that. 733, the basically publishing anything we buy for our libraries. So parents need to have access to that. The public need to have access to that. And there's a time frame where they get to have that when we order it and when it's available for the kids.
If I understood correctly at this meeting, if you don't have a full-time librarian, you're exempt from that. That's what I understood at this conference. That only applies, but they also said you better do it anyway.
So why couldn't we do it like we do the textbooks and have them on display in here where there's people around?
That is one of the things that they talked about, basically doing it the same way.
That'd be a little tricky. We buy, we're buying, I'm just estimating 40 to 50 new library books minimum per year, and so it might be a little tricky to get.
But once again, yeah,
But they were
that's right. And
they were talking about just posting them on your school's website,
Right, yeah.
posting them and making them available if parents, whoever wanted to read it, and that would suffice.
What I think may have happened, and I'm just speculating here, some districts, from what I heard from a state legislator, one person, some districts were buying library books, and when parents were asking, what are you guys buying, and they were withholding, maybe some school was withholding that information, which we don't do. We try to share our resources. There's no reason we would hide something from parents. We stand behind everything we order. Sometimes maybe we order something we didn't realize that something was in a book, but but I think behind this law was the transparency. So we can, through Follett, we can put a list of books out on our website or a link, or put something here in the boardroom. If any parent wants, we'll always get them that information. And it starts.
Okay, but let me ask you this. Say you had book ABC, and I didn't have access to that book. Would you make it available to me as a parent to read it before it was in the library? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know. I think this case, they're probably looking it up online, because I think you could type in the book and to get these reviews, like these books shouldn't be in schools, or should be whatever. That's what the parents were looking.
Oh,
their research.
They weren't really all that interested. They just wanted to know what the whole crowd was saying.
Well, yeah, they don't want books that might be talking about premarital, whatever, or suicide, things like that.
Okay.
If I understood it correctly, what you're liable for is to put the titles of the books out there, and they could look up,
Research it, yeah.
whatever. It wasn't our responsibility to publish the book, to give them a copy of the book or a download or whatever.
We've never stopped parents from going into our libraries anyway, have we?
I don't think so.
I mean, I know any time I've ever wanted to go
Put 'em
in
to work.
40 years, I've
Yeah.
never been
We put
stopped.
some to work. Daryl has a bunch of books that need to be shelved or put back all the time, from what I hear, at their library. Okay, 734 is a follow-up of what we just talked about. Let me see what the difference is. There's a procedure that we have to have in place so they have access to a library collection and a list of books and materials that a child can borrow from the school. So we don't, a kid might say, I'm interested in this, and we have something on the shelf, and here, read this. Then, we want to avoid that kind of thing.
So as I was reading through this, this part, do we have the ability to say, these are the books that are in our library.
Yeah,
At
any time. Yeah.
real easy to just pull it up on a computer.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. I mean, that would be a ton of books at the high school to read through, but
Yeah. Elementary probably has more than us. They just really small.
They'll look for,
I was just wondering about that.
Yeah.
I've never asked.
I bet there's like these organizations that'll put out things that, hey, if your school has this book, beware, because it has this in it.
Yeah.
And so these parents probably will scan and look, oh, our school does have this book. So I think that's probably what we're talking about.
So I could just go online and say, what's in Joe City's library?
So right now, it's not posted on the website, but we could get access.
But if I went in and asked, you could give me a list. Okay.
Is that something we were looking with this?
Yeah, we're gonna comply if you guys pass this next month. So, and there'll be a request form as with that policy. 7:35, school ceremonies, 1 to 2 minutes at the beginning of each day for silence, to meditate. So we currently, we've always, since probably the inception of the school, had the moment of silence. That policy, Joe City's always kept, even when it was at one time it was controversial to even keep it. And now, but that moment of silence wasn't defined with 1 or 2 minutes. Now it's defined with 1 or 2 minutes.
It has
So,
to be more than one, and it can't be more than two.
yeah, so the principals will have fun talking to the staff about that, I'm sure.
We've been doing that all year.
And
Timing them,
Yeah.
I never timed them.
So we do all the morning announcements and then do the pledge and then the moment of silence, and we call it a minute of silence now, so everybody knows. And,
To remind everybody.
and we end it over the intercom after a minute.
Okay. I remember when we started that.
it was also.
Okay, hold on. We have a question.
Okay.
What's your question?
Got a question about the previous point about the reference books and things. I know, like in my classroom, I've got, most of them are ancient from like the 50s, but I've got like On the Built Homestead, Science of Soil, all kinds of different reference manuals that I allow the kids to borrow or look at, and sometimes they type things out of. Would that be something that I need to have posted in like my online Google Classroom for parents to at least look at what kinds of books or like what titles I have or those kinds of things?
When you were saying that, I was thinking about the books that the teachers have in their classrooms, which evidently is hers.
I'm super interested in animals. I have an animal for,
Yeah, anything we're giving to kids should have,
So anything that kids could
Got it.
possibly have access to.
Yeah.
So,
So the way I read it, and I could be wrong, it only says library, library materials and your media center.
But in all fairness,
another policy I think says curriculum
Oh, does it?
materials.
yeah, and to cover her, to keep her from any trouble,
it's so helpful, but like, these are the books that are available for
right?
reference.
yeah, dude, I mean,
It's just something that we would need to be aware of as teachers, so that we need to get that done.
she brings up a really good point. Do we have to have teachers because some teachers, at least when I was up there, and I even had it, have their own like little personal book stash.
Sometimes our English teachers will have hundreds of books.
So do they need to?
Yeah, they should read everything before they pass it to a student. They shouldn't pass something.
Well, I don't mean about read. Should it be listed?
If they're gonna be passing it out.
Because a lot of times, if a kid wants to borrow it, right, that's why they have it there, and then they take it home. Parents, what this is saying, I think, maybe
I don't
not
think-
letter of the law, but the whole idea of the law is that parents should be able to know what their kids would possibly have access to in the teacher's room, right?
Wouldn't be a problem, I wouldn't think.
So
Let's
we
say in
have-
ag, there are controversies in ag about different philosophies. And that's fine, as long as everyone, yeah. So we need to be clear about what we're giving the kids, I think, at this level, especially the younger levels, but yeah.
Well, I'm just wondering how you would deal with that and still cover the policy, just have a teacher list, these are books in my classroom?
Yeah, I think all the teachers keep a list of the books that they keep in their class as part of their inventory.
Daryl says no.
Our elementary has probably thousands of classroom books.
That's something that they.
And I was thinking about the elementary, because I know the bookshelves in them.
Thousands.
Well, for one, we haven't had any complaints at the elementary, so I think we can tackle this issue a little bit at a time. I mean.
Yeah,
I just don't want our teachers and administrators hung out to dry because that we didn't follow the law, you know,
Well,
I don't
yeah.
want them.
Personally, I think it's great that teachers would have a shelf of books that
I
the
do
kids can
too.
take and read if they want to read it.
But you and I both know sometimes people are not what we think they are, and it could be something.
I just, yeah, to Rhonda's point, we need to cover CYA.
I can't imagine a case where a teacher, I mean, would give out supply a book, a resource without knowing what it is and being able to.
No, not
list
that
it.
they don't
Right,
know
not
what
that
it
they
is,
don't
the
know what it
parent.
is.
But then they list it as they, you know, if they're gonna use it, they list it, and then we publish that list out for parents.
Okay, that's what we're saying, that she's got books she lends the kids, there needs to be,
Not
it needs to be
necessarily
accessible by the parents.
part of curriculum. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like
Like supplemental, yeah.
well, it's not even supplemental. I had a list of books in my classroom, and let's say a kid finished, so this is why I'm asking this. Let's say a kid finishes his work, and instead of sitting there and pestering his neighbor, they're like, hey, Mr. Larson, can I read one of your books? And he's like, yeah, sure. Pick a book and read it. I mean, right?
I'm super interested in rabbits. You got anything else I can read about? Sure, there's a couple of books on animal production.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm just wondering if that type of thing is, because I was wondering about that too. Is
Yeah.
that covered under
That would probably slip through the cracks if it was something like that. But if we found out about it, we would correct it as we go. And look at it this way, with the internet and things now, kids can have access to a lot of things.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I totally agree with that.
And usually
I would
the
hate to
parents-
have a parent go, hey, Johnny came home with this book from Mr. Larson's class, and I didn't like it. And Mr. Larson's going, well, I don't see anything wrong with it.
So once again, I think the
You know what I'm
intent is
saying?
to try and prevent the teacher from promoting.
Right, I
think
understand
that's
what the
the
intent is.
But no, you're right. We'll just have to do the best we can.
Do magazines fit in that? The library has some magazines. I know, when I was there, I had woodworking and construction and cabinet making magazines there that the kids looked at to get plans. I mean, who knows what some of the advertisements in them could be.
So we don't need to make this bigger than it is. What
Well,
Mr.
but
Coates
we're
is
not,
saying is we can
I
deal with
don't
it.
think that is
Right.
the issue we're looking at. What we're talking about here is parents having access
to it.
to the titles. That's all we gotta worry about. She presents a list, it's put on the website, she brings new books in, she says, hey, Mr. Miller, add these to my list. That's all, then she's covered.
And I think that's where we're at.
Yeah, I think, and then that way, if parents don't go and look at it, that's on them. It was made public. And then our teachers are covered.
Jeff, comment.
I just say that this needs to be made policy, because in my classroom last year, I probably have 600 books that the kids could choose from, but they didn't take them home. They just had it in class for AR reading. They didn't have a book, go get one. Go read something during AR time, I don't care what it is, but read something.
Well, so
And I have a list of the books just because I wanted to know what they are, but it certainly wasn't published anywhere.
right.
I just think if that is important, then the teachers just need to know that, and,
Well, we're all just finding out it's important too.
yeah.
So, yeah.
And I'm sure my classroom is not the only one.
There's gotta
I
be an
agree.
easy way to do this where they can just include, I have these books in my room, your kid could possibly read them if they want to.
And we shouldn't be.
Well, if we're
ordering
looking
it
at,
like, it's questionable, that's in policy too. So when we order these library books, so a teacher shouldn't, bring something in without checking it in with the principal and on her list. But, like when you order these books, they'll tell you what, if it has language,
yeah.
reading, all that stuff.
Well, so like I'm just going by examples, so maybe I shouldn't have been doing this as a teacher. I have a lot of books at my house that I like to read as a teenager, and I think they're all fine. And rather than just have them sitting at my house collecting dust, I would bring them up in my classroom so that kids could read them during AR if they didn't have a book type of thing, instead of having to say, well, if you don't have a book, I'm docking you for
I think
today.
most teachers have books in their.
So
Yeah, that was
That's-
cracks.
Those
Even
type of
grandmas
things are
have
the
them in
ones
their
I don't
kitchen.
wanna see our teachers getting.
I don't want to prevent that either. So we're going to talk about
Yeah, I
it.
would discuss it with your principals and see what you wanna do.
We were going to have this conversation today when the lightning hit, actually, and we canceled the meeting because he was out of power and we had leaks and things.
And I agree with you. I would assume all of our teachers, any books that they would offer are perfectly fine. But
But you never
in
know.
today's world, you never know what a parent is gonna find offensive and say, you didn't have this listed as a book that my kid could get a hold of. So, just saying.
It would be rare either way. Even without this rule, it would be rare. I don't recall any time I've ever had a parent complain about a book from a classroom.
Yeah,
I mean, we need to follow the law, obviously, but I think it's probably not something we have to worry about really.
until
Like
you
a
do.
Well, it might happen, but I mean, it's not a huge problem.
Right, I agree. It's not something you have to do right now. I'm just saying it's something, you should discuss it and think about it.
The last one, besides the moment of silence, is it's the parental rights and empowers parents to sue if, defines it, if a government entity usurps their fundamental rights as a parent to raise their child. So, you know, interpret the language as you will, but that's what that policy is referring to.
I got another comment on the moment of silence thing. Okay. It's kind of funny to go to these conferences and they list the rules and then they absolutely completely break them. On the moment of silence, they're announcing the time that it can be. And then they say, and you're not allowed to tell the kids, or anyone's allowed to tell any of the kids what they should contemplate or not. But we need to contemplate. It's just crazy to be at these meetings. But anyway, we can't do that, but it is encouraged to get the parents involved in the moment of silence in what the kids should be doing during that moment of silence.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure when we're addressing the staff that we make sure that that's clear, that they can't be giving them instructions of what to ponder or think about during that time.
And we have had people in this district that went over the line, not in that exact area, but one of my grandchildren was told they were not allowed to pray in school. And when I told my grandchild that I would take care of it, they said, it's okay, I just do it anyway. So I thought, okay, you figured it out.
Yeah, you're right about that. So
I explained,
about it.
they cannot tell you you have to. They can't make you pray, but they can't keep you from it. That's the law.
That's true.
It can't be teacher initiated.
That's awesome.
About it.
That is one of the things that they talked about prayer in athletic activities is where they were talking about. The coach can even participate in the prayer. The coach just can't initiate the prayer. But if the students, the athletes, the whatever initiate it, the teachers don't, the staff doesn't have to leave. They can be part of it.
For now.
For now.
Are we to the end now?
Yeah, that will follow.
So this is just a first reading. I would encourage you to take that home if you want, and it's usually lined out which changes are and all that kind of stuff. I've gone through and looked at a lot of
Is
them.
this public?
Is what public, the policy?
Yeah, is it online or somewhere? If a parent heard this and wants to know what they are, do they have access to that?
Yeah, maybe not through our site. I'll check on that tomorrow. Julie and I will check on that. And we can get a link to these, but we're going to keep a hard copy here in this room.
Okay, so they could come in or they could get linked to it somehow. Yeah.
Okay. They email one of us, we could get it to them too.
Watching tornadoes and hail.
Okay. Moving on. This one's yours. I'll make a motion that we open for discussion the status of ESSER funds and other funding sources.
Yep. So you had asked us,
Thank you, Dayton.
us last month to get a report ready on how some ESSER funds, how much we have left, how much we've spent, what we've spent it on, those type of things. And we have that here for you. So if you're looking at the page, we can review that. The total expenditure, including encumbrances, is $1.5 million that we've spent. Some of that's been on personnel. So we did like retention stipends, if the board remembers. We have 2 additional teachers that we've those positions have been renewed through ESSER funds. So that includes that. A lot of other things. The technology includes some of those interactive touchscreen panels. That was a huge expense for us. Buses, we bought 2 buses and a car.
How did we pay for utilities under ESSER? I'm just curious.
Let me look and see if I have a note. Oh, good question. I don't know.
Maybe because of those lights.
Oh, maybe, I don't know, maybe like filters, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So he's doing filters under utilities? All right.
I would have to follow up.
Well, but remember they made those lights. Remember what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, the ultraviolet light.
Yeah.
A little bit, but I think it.
I would think that would all be under equipment.
Utilities is just the
Utilities is
But
like,
you had to run it.
okay, wow.
I'll follow up on that one.
You don't do your income tax, do you?
Yeah, I do.
Whatever qualifies
Raise again.
for what he did on that. I don't recall talking about that with him. So.
We pay more income tax than I should.
You don't
Because
run
you
the
do.
game very good, do you?
No, I don't.
Might have been when maybe we could charge when we were open, when we didn't have to be. We could charge a certain percentage, maybe. That would be my only guess at this point, but I could follow up.
So whatever happened to we were, at one point we were getting an electric bus or something. Did that go down or was that?
Oh, that's a grant. We're waiting to hear if we get it.
We're still waiting on
Yeah.
that.
See if we get it. I think we'll be notified next month, maybe November. So we've got our fingers crossed. We think we might get it.
Okay.
We purchased 2 buses. Okay, and then you can see the grant awards, what they total, what they have totaled. So our uncommitted funds that we still have yet to spend of ESSER is $616,000.
How much do we have in the middle that we've committed that's not spent?
That we've committed but not spent.
That
like
we've agreed that we're gonna buy, but we haven't.
So
hasn't
that's
got-
included in the top one, 1.5.
Okay.
That would be like things that are encumbered, like that we promised to pay off a vehicle or whatever.
So that question probably sounded dumb.
No,
That's fine.
Okay.
that's the scary part. It made sense.
Are we done with this one or do we have any questions?
I don't have.
Okay. Let's move on to requests for future. Do we have any requests for future agenda items?
I guess should have.
And I'm just curious, Brian, if you could just send me how the heck we're paying, what utilities
I will.
is.
I will.
I mean, I know what utilities are, but
I will find that out.
that one I'm going, what?
You probably found something that we could charge to ESSER, and it helps our regular budget when we can charge it to ESSER.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just,
But I think his concern is what happens when we don't have the ESSER money. Where's it gonna impact is the question,
Sure.
right?
that, and I don't want an audit to go, you
Uh-huh,
spent how much on what?
uh-huh.
You weren't supposed to spend those on that.
Going back to the instruments and stuff, I'd like to see a lot more of our needs in that, like with the instruments. Let the kids start figuring out ways to help pay for this stuff.
There is a challenge there. We're getting some kickback from community members and businesses about fundraising. So it's kind of a fine line there, how much to fundraise and, how much, when's the cutoff there. So we're trying to be really careful. I've visited with the Chamber of Commerce and trying to work with local businesses, many of which have kind of felt that we're over fundraising them. And so we're trying to find that balance.
But that's why I said what I did about the band.
So we get community members, individuals that feel that way too. So we try to find the balance. I'll look at.
But what I'm saying is, we need the kids. How many, I'm gonna tell you right now, just like the donut sales last year, the parents did more of that than the kids. And the kids need to be the ones doing this stuff.
We all agree.
And it's gonna be accepted by the community and business people better when the kids are the ones doing it.
I agree 100%.
And it's gotten to where the kids just sit there with their hands out and we all just give them whatever they need. And we've got to start teaching them that they've got to be doing it.
They're entitled.
Pardon?
They got a sense of entitlement, some of our youth nowadays, so yeah.
Yes, they do.
They can pull weed, we have lots of weed.
Yeah.
We're not trying to get a whole band of instruments that are in schools, right?
No, it's just that why should we, the people in this room, be the ones worried about it? Let the kids help with that. They're the ones using it.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm paying $90 a month to whoever it is. Milano's. I'm paying $90 a month to Milano's right
And
now
so's
for
Rochelle for
three
Rockland.
kids. So I'm assuming we're wanting band instruments for kids that parents can't afford that, right? Okay. Any other future requests? Or we haven't had any future items? Well, that's quiet. Okay. How about our upcoming meetings? That would be October what?
11th.
Are there any conflicts? Anybody know what the school calendar is on October 11th? This time of year when we're in school, we usually like to check that out.
We've got games and stuff tonight, even big volleyball over in Heber. October, I think we'll go for it. It's October 11th, right? It's right after Memorial Day.
And Indigenous Day.
Right.
Okay. October 11th, 6 o'clock. We don't have to vote on those because that's our normal time. So I'll make a motion that we adjourn. You want to vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. There we go.
All right.
We are adjourned
List.
Thank you.
at